Most people don't reach their dream, not because of failure. Most people don't live their dream because they give up. You see, it's not the failure that stops us, but that most stop at their first failure. Those who succeed don't stop at one failure. They don't stop at 10 failures. They don't stop at 100, 1,000, or 1,000,000. They say, this is my goal, and I will do whatever it takes to achieve it. I will learn the lessons from any failures. I will learn faster. I will work harder. I will work smarter. And I will not quit until my dream is a reality. Failure makes winners stronger. Failure makes winners hungrier. But it makes most give up. It makes most feel worthless. Winners don't enjoy failure, but they would never let failure stop them.
Sometimes it feels like we'll never make it. When we get the chance, we gotta take it. 'Cause you never know when you could be somebody's hero. You never know when you could
you super Evan, because that was 129.
be strong. You could be somebody's hero. Keep on pushing on. Be strong. You could be somebody's hero.
Woo! Welcome, everybody.
You guys are amazing.
Welcome.
Nice.
It's so good to be here. I'm so happy that we're back again for Ninja Talks,
Me
Overcoming
too.
Obstacles 2020.
Yeah.
And I'm joined by Lindsay Andriotti from Earth.University, and we have a great show for you tonight. We have a topic that is near and dear to my heart and to all of our panelists and our guests tonight. It's the theme is failure. And most of us have experienced failure in our lives, and some more than others. And one of the things I know about failure is that, well, when you look at people with success, most people look at people with success and they see them as it going in a straight line. Oh, Scott, do you have that slide? So this is what people see when they think of success. This is what they look like to them. So, and this happens to me. When people see me and they think, oh, you're a successful producer and director, it must have been easy for you, just been like a straight path. What it really looks like is that big squiggly line. And all those turns and deviations, those are failures along the way. And every one of us that has reached success, thank you, Sky, has gone through a number of failures in our life to get to where we are. And so tonight we're going to talk about failure, how to use it as a teacher, and how to deal with it, how to overcome it, how to not let it get you down. You know, there have been many successful people in the world that we today, I think they're geniuses, but I got to tell you, people like Michael Jordan, he was cut from his high school basketball team and went home and cried all his eyes out. It was crazy. Walt Disney was fired from the newspaper for not being creative or imaginative enough. Imagine that, Walt Disney. Oprah was demoted from a TV anchor because they didn't think she was present for television enough. Albert Einstein couldn't speak till he was 4 years old, and teachers dismissed him as not being able to learn anything. He wouldn't amount to anything. Thank you, Sky. So this is what failure does for all of us. It teaches us lessons, and it's very valuable in our lives. And failure gives us grit, it gives us determination, and it creates a drive in us to overcome adversity and get stronger. And people that don't face failure in their life, or don't go for it, or don't try and reach their dreams, don't reach the type of success that all of us people that are on the panels today have reached. And I'm so excited to talk about this tonight. And the first person we're going to introduce to you is amazing. He is a former football player. He played football in college. He's from Nigeria. His family's from Nigeria. He immigrated from Nigeria. And he never liked football as a kid. He didn't want to play football. It wasn't something that was for him. He didn't get it. He didn't understand the rules, the game. He got a coach that taught him and showed him how to play and what it meant to do with certain things. And then he started developing a like for it and a love for it eventually. He played in college football. He got drafted by Oakland Raiders, or he actually was a walk-on of the Oakland Raiders, 2003, 2004. He played professional football. Then he got to play with his brother at the Chargers. After he retired from football, he became a broadcaster for the NFL Network. And most notably, he became the host of American Ninja Warrior. And here he is here. This is Akbar. He just came out with a book recently called Everyone Can Be a Ninja, Find Your Inner Warrior and Achieve Your Dreams. And do you have that slide of him hosting American Ninja Warrior, host guy? Here's a good picture of him with Matt and Akbar, with Matt standing up. And this is what I love about Akbar. He's all about enthusiasm. And trust me, Akbar has faced a lot of failure in his life and overcome a lot of adversity. He's a perfect person to talk about failure because he's gotten it right so many times. And I mean that with all the love in the world. So Akbar, I turn it to you and welcome and thank you for being here.
Well, Ken, thank you so much for the introduction. And this is pretty cool. This is a topic that I love to talk about. It's what my book, the premise of my book is all about. And, you know, one of the things that I came to realize is that in order to overcome obstacles, you really have to really start with the mindset, and how you deal with it really comes down to being able to identify that mindset. And there are two mindsets that really come to mind for me. And that's one, the growth mindset, which is being able to embrace challenges, being able to not only just to be able to embrace the challenge, but to be able to give your best effort when there are challenges in front of you. And then lastly, being able to learn from the feedback. Now, there's the other side of this, which is the fixed mindset. And the fixed mindset is something that you want to be able to identify. If you have it, you want to be able to move away from it. And that's a person, when they are faced with challenges, they avoid it. They give up when that time comes, when they're met with that type of adversity in life. And then they don't learn, they don't welcome feedback from anyone else. They just kind of stay in this fixed mindset. And so being able to identify who you are within that type of mindset really will allow you to become conscious. Because I think oftentimes when people face challenges, they aren't conscious of their behaviors in the midst of challenges. And so it may look like that feeling that you get on the inside, you start feeling and you start backpedaling, start making excuses. If you aren't aware of that mindset inside of you, then that's something that you got to tap into. And that's what I'm hoping with these stories that I'm going to share with you guys today, is allowing you able to see that mindset and where you are. And for me, it all started, you talked about the Oakland Raiders. And in 2003, I was a rookie for the Oakland Raiders. And the average the average career in the NFL is 2.5 years. And that's not a very long career. For me, I dreamt of playing in the NFL for 10 years, but I was cut by the Raiders in 2005, and I was devastated. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to bounce back. It's going to be easy. Some team is going to be able to pick me back up. That entire 2005 season, I sat at home, and I was done. So in December, I was tired. I went back home to San Diego, where I was living at the time. I was tired of being just at home, working out, and not having the opportunity to play in the NFL. It's like, it can't happen this way. That's the growth mindset, because I welcomed the challenge that was in front of me. And I said, you know what, I'm going to give my best effort. But I did something outside of the box. Now, typically the way it works, once you get cut, you wait for your agent to make the move. I said, no, not for me. In 2005, in December, I went to the unannounced. I went to the Oakland Raiders, not the Oakland Raiders, the San Diego Chargers at the time. I went to the San Diego Chargers facility, and I said, I'd like to speak with the head coach, Marty Schottenheimer. And they said, do you have an appointment? I was like, no, I don't have an appointment. I'm a free agent. I'd like to play for the Chargers. And Georgette, bless her heart, Georgette looked at me and go, okay, sure. Let me get your phone number, get your name, and we'll have somebody get in contact with you, which was really like, dude, get out of here. Are you crazy? You know how many people want to play for the Chargers? And like, who are you? And fate would have it, as I'm walking out and being nicely asked to leave, I'm walking out, and it's early in the morning, so I know the coach's schedule. So I know how they kind of all operate. And I'm walking out, and Marty Schottenheimer is walking in. And this thing on the inside go, no, wow, I left a message with Georgette, so she's going to tell him I don't have to say anything. no, just keep going and he'll know he saw me. And all the stuff was going to prepare me not to say anything. And I said, boy, if you don't speak now, if you don't speak now, you'll never get a chance. And with all the nerves in my voice, I was, hey, coach. I mean, at this time, I'm 23 years old, 275 pounds, full of muscle. Like, why am I scared? Hey, coach, my name is Akbar Gbajabiamila. He goes, I know who you are. I said, look, I'm a free agent. I'd love to play for the Chargers. I'm here. I live down the street. I'm available. I'm ready to go. And coach looked me in my eyes and he goes, look, I'm going to talk to the personnel department and we'll come up with a plan. I thought, wow, he seemed really sure the way he said that. I left. 2 weeks later, I get a call from the Chargers inviting me to camp, to OTAs. And that's how in 2006, I became a San Diego Charger. And that was an unorthodox way of doing it. And that opportunity, I had a chance to play against my brother who's playing for the Packers. You see the photo there. There's Aaron Rodgers in the background. That's before Aaron Rodgers was big time, prime time, like he is now. But that was a special moment because there's something I learned there, and that was courage. And when you're facing that fear, I faced the fear of being rejected by Coach Marty Schottenheimer. And I was able to suppress that with just by elevating courage in the midst of being rejected. And so that was a powerful moment for me. And I'll never forget that because it changed my trajectory. It changed everything. I was exposed to a coach who taught me more about football. I realized there was so much about football I didn't understand. So Greg Minuski, who was my linebacker coach at the time, he taught me so much during that process. And in that whole football realm, there's something that happens in football that I think everyone experiences in life. And we talked about, and this is what this is about, which is failure. And in my book, and actually I'd like to read it. I don't mean to have a little story time right now, but page 145, I should have probably had it. It's page 145 in my book, Everyone Can Be a Ninja. It's called Sit in Your Failure is the name of the chapter. And it says, failure hurts so much that we as a society have tried to minimize its impact. Kids are told that it's okay to fail. We read how great men and women failed time and time again. We're told that failure is a part of life and it's nothing to get upset about. At the same time, we're told to learn from our mistakes. How can we learn from our failures and mistakes if we're told that it's no big deal? You can't really have it both ways. It is the pain that makes failure a step towards success. By trying to hide your failure or minimize it, what you're really doing is protecting your own ego at the expense of improvement. And this portion took me back to Monday mornings in the NFL, Monday morning film. And anyone who played in the NFL or just played sports in general, they know what Monday morning film is. That whole game, they call it the eyes in the skies with the camera, and they're watching everything. And it sees all your mistakes. You can't hide. And the coaches will pick out plays on Monday, and they will just go in on you. And I'll never forget 2004 going up against Peyton Manning, Indianapolis Colts at the time he was playing, and he did a hard count. And I jumped off sides. And boy, that cost us big time. That put us in a position that we didn't want to be in. We ended up losing that game like 35-14 in that game. And the coach came back Monday morning and just ripped me a new one in front of the entire team. There are 53 men in this room, plus the coaches. It is one of the most embarrassing and most humbling thing all at the same time. Because what it does is it allows you to be able to sit in your own failure. And sitting in your own failure allows you to move towards change. But if you try to minimize it, you try to step away from it, that's when it becomes difficult. And so that routine really developed my growth mindset. We talked about that earlier, that growth mindset. It allowed me to deal with the pain of failure. It allowed me to deal with the uncomfortableness of failure and say, I need to rise to the occasion. And that to me came full circle for me. And I'll kind of wrap this up, but it came full circle for me when in 2013, and Kent, you would know this well. In 2013, I would have never thought my life would have changed this way, but I went out to audition to be host of American Ninja Warrior. To my surprise, I got it. And many people don't know this. When I first got the call from my agent, there was something that happened. fear of failure happened to me. My agent calls and says, hey, Akbar, you're going to be the host of American Ninja Warrior. And my brain, no joke, my brain started already to try to make excuses. Well, I got the NFL stuff going. I'm doing NFL Network, because I'm like, man, this is a kind of a big deal. I don't want to mess up in front of everyone. So I try to self-sabotage, but I couldn't get it out. The repetition that I had earlier in life wouldn't allow me to self-sabotage. So there was a filter there, and I'm glad that I had a circuit breaker. Otherwise, I would have just talked myself out of a blessing. And so that first year, I'll never forget, it was the worst year of my life, I felt like at the time. I laugh at it because it's funny now to me. But I remember being handed a script saying you got to memorize the script, and then putting all this stuff in front of me, lights and a live audience, all this stuff I had never done before. And I couldn't memorize my script. I couldn't memorize anything. And all I could just do was just remember, like, God, somebody please help me. Matt's looking at me like, man, dude, do you know anything? At least he didn't say that, but that's what I was feeling. And I could hear all the commotion going on in the truck. And then I remember I had a bright idea. I go, you know what? What about a teleprompter? I've seen this at the NFL Network before. This is great, a teleprompter. They go, Akbar, that's a great idea. They get a teleprompter. So I've already increased the budget of the staff, of production. I've increased it by adding a teleprompter. They bring in a teleprompter. I can't read it. That goes on the entire season. I thought for sure I was done. And when I got the call that they were bringing me back for the second season, I did everything in my power, that growth mindset, to make sure that I got critical feedback that would allow me to improve. And then I also allowed myself to be able to say, you know what, I'm going to accept this challenge. And that was the challenge that I accepted. And from that point on, we started to see my growth. The show started to grow because I was able to kind of tap into who I was. I didn't allow fear of looking bad, being bad. I didn't allow that to stop my growth. So I'll never forget that. And this one is another fun anecdote. So I'm going to say something that's probably going to blow some of the audience away. Black folks don't jump out of planes. All right. It was one of the most, amazing.
White men can't jump, and black folks don't jump out of planes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we don't. This right here, before you play this was probably one of the most crazy experiences I've ever had. My buddies and I thought, hey, let's go skydiving. I was like, yeah, skydiving is going to be great. The skydiving is going to be so fun. And by the time I got there and I realized that this was a stupid idea, I said, this is dumb. There's no way I'm going to jump out of this plane. They're going through the prep and the tutorial. My heart is beating. I'm like, oh my goodness. And I'm legit scared. Now, because of my size, and I was still with the Oakland Raiders at the time, because of my size, I had to have a smaller person on my back who weighed less than 150 pounds. But he was really skilled in dealing with different guys and whatever. We get up to the plane is taking off, and we're up high, and all of my buddies are going off the plane. They go, I go, oh, heck no. Oh, he done died. You know, like, he's gone. The next guy, and I'm looking through the window, and I can't see anyone. 4 guys go in front of me. I'm the last one going. I know I'm a legit NFL guy. There's no guy 150 pounds going to push me around. I'm standing there outside the door looking out. I'm like, this is not a great idea. I'm under contract. This is not happening. And he's trying to push me, and we're not going. And he said, just trust me. I was, because I was afraid. I was afraid I was going to die. I was afraid that this was going to go bad. The parachute was all the first things in my mind came to life. And there and then, he says, all right, he calmed me down. He talked to me, walked me through the process, what we went through first. And
failure at that point is pretty bad, right? I mean, if you fail at jumping out of a plane, the consequences are fairly dire, I imagine.
Yeah. And it's
so tell us about the clip. Set up the clip. Who's the voice on the clip? Set it up.
So here's the clip, and I think this is pretty cool. I heard Will Smith, obviously famous actor, rapper, Academy Award winning, everything. Will Smith is narrating this, but I heard him give this speech, and I thought it was powerful because it made me think of my own experience skydiving. So check this out. This is a short clip. I wanted you guys to see me skydiving. Of course, you know.
All right, okay, roll it.
So you fly and you go up, you go up, you go up, you go up to 14,000 feet, and somebody opens the door, and in that moment you realize you've never been in a freaking airplane with the door open, and you're looking out down to death, and you fall out of the airplane, and in 1 second you realize that it's the most blissful experience of your life. You're flying. There's zero fear. You realize that the point of maximum danger is the point of minimum fear.
Obviously famous actor, rapper.
No reason to be scared. It only just ruins your day. The best things in life on the other side of terror, on the other side of your maximum fear, are all of the best things in life.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And you know what? I would have never had that experience in my entire life had I not pushed past that fear. And that to me kind of sums up this entire thing, is that you don't get to enjoy or the benefit of seeing success if you can't push past fear. Recognizing that it's totally normal to have that fear. That's a normal experience. It's a normal feeling, but it's being able to push past it. And I think that's what a lot of people struggle.
Well, thank you, Akbar, for sharing that. And you know what? The one thing I realized when you were talking earlier about the mindset between either the mindset that is, how to deal with failure, or are you going to go, I know none of our Ninja Warriors have that mindset that you were talking about, because they all don't fear failure. Because I know for a fact, there's probably not a sport alive or a profession alive that has more failure than American Ninja Warrior. So these athletes face failure on a constant daily basis. And, I was doing the math the other day, or just earlier today, we probably had almost 10,000 people compete in American Ninja Warrior. We've had 3 people make it to the top of Mount Motoriyama. That's a pretty low percentage. And when you then go down to how many people completed the qualifying courses, you're probably at 15%. And you go to the finals courses, you're down to about 3 or 4%. So that's a lot of people that have failed time and time again. So I definitely know it takes resilience and it takes tenacity. And what we want to hear from you guys is, what does it take to get up again and keep trying and to keep going for it? Najee, jump in.
I think for me, I experienced failure when I was very young. I had only ever known success from the age of 10 years old until I was about 19 when I got injured in gymnastics. And I had only, from that period where I started competing in gymnastics, I had only ever seen success. That's all I ever knew. I got very high in the sport. I won a ton of regional titles. I created my own skill in gymnastics, and I only knew success. I had scholarships lined up and everything. And then I got injured, and that kind of tore me apart, because I had given up my entire childhood for this thing, for gymnastics and the opportunity and a dream of going to the Olympics. That's all I knew. That's all I had ever prepared for at just, 19 years old. That was the life. So when it was ripped away from me, it just kind of felt like this big joke, essentially. It was like, well, what was all of this for? What was all the sacrifice for? Being homeschooled, missing having a childhood, not having the things, and not figuring out what I wanted to do in school and do after high school was over. I just wanted to do the Olympics. That's all I knew. So once it was all kind of taken away from me, that was the point where I felt true failure, because I felt like, I had failed at this thing that I had been living up for such a long time. And I really didn't know how to come out of that. And it wasn't until I discovered American Ninja Warrior where it kind of sparked true joy. And initially, kind of like Akbar, when I got called for season 7, it was very, very similar to what Akbar was saying. I almost started self-sabotaging myself. And I'm like, I got this bum knee. I don't know if this is what I really want to do. I haven't really been training for it. I'm an athlete. I need to really train for something. But then I was like, you know what? This is an amazing opportunity. How many people can say they're going to get an opportunity to compete on this really, really cool, once in a lifetime type of sport? So I was like, yeah, no, I'm super excited, Peter. Let's do this. And I went for it. I started going to the movement lab, where I'm at right now. I started training with Chris Wilczewski, who really took me under his wing. And it just, now I'm here. It kind of opened a door to this new world that I'm absolutely in love with. So I think for me, one of the things that kind of brought me out of failure was just looking at something as an opportunity to have new doors open and seeing, you know, something else you can be introduced to. So it's just not being afraid of, you know, seeing what else is behind closed doors, really.
Do you ever get depressed or you know, feeling like giving up, like enough's enough? I failed too many times, and this is
season 10 when I failed the water walls. It was like PTSD because it was the very first time that something was out of my control athletically.
Yeah.
You know, I had no control of my asthma attack happening during the course, and I could not finish as much as I wanted to. I could not bring myself to completing the course, to no fault of my own. It was just because of an athletic or, you know, a physical condition that I was dealing with.
Yeah.
So I was kind of in that moment, just like, I don't want to go through this again. Like, you know, I went through this, you know, at that time, I think it was like 8 years ago. I was like, I've gone through this like before. Like, I don't want to go through all the trauma again. Like, maybe this is enough. Like, maybe this is where I hang it up. And I came this close to not applying for season 11. And I was just like, you know what? Like, I have to give it one more shot. You know, if I felt like if I would have given up at that moment, I would have just been giving away, again, just looking at an opportunity.
Yeah.
I would have been giving away such an amazing opportunity to see doors that could be opened. And then I got called to be a mentor on A&W Junior. And I got to help kids.
Exactly. That was
Go
awesome.
through, I got to help these kids go through things that I had gone through before. And I was like, for me, that was my full circle, was A&W Junior, when I got to talk to these kids, especially this season with Chatterbox Ninja. You know, he did not want to do that course at all. And I was just like, man, this kid is mini me right now. I understand everything that he's going through. And he got up there. I talked to him for a little bit. He got up there, he did the course, and he rocked it. He won like three, I think he won two or three races like in a row. And after it was over, he came up to me. He was like, Naj, like, thank you so much. He was like, if you had not been there, if I hadn't gotten to talk to you right before I ran the course, I think I would have gone home. And now I'm super excited to see what I'm going to do, like, you know, after this is over. I'm like, yes, like maybe that was the point of going through this, you know, like feeling that failure so you can help someone else.
It's very interesting because you made me think of another part of this whole failure thing. And it's giving up to our trusting our intuition, trusting our heart, listening to our heart, and trusting in a higher power, whether that be God or Buddha or the universe, whatever you believe in. But believing in that is very different than hope. Having faith means you are worthy.
Absolutely.
And deserving. And I think that's a very valuable thing to take home. And, you know, there's not a winner out there that likes to fail.
Yeah.
But they know that it's part of the game. And they get it. And I have failed countless times in my life to get to where I am today. And I, like you, Najee, was crying in my bathroom. Yep. This isn't right. This isn't going to work. And everybody has a story like that. That, you know, the thing that's important to remember, like you mentioned, is you just got to get back up because you're always learning something new. And look at the opportunity that you got to be of service to someone, a younger, and mentor someone. Yeah. And how rewarding and grateful you must have been for that.
It was so cool because I felt like if I had had somebody during the times where I had just, in a sense, in my mind, given up and just, you know, tapped out, threw in the towel, I would have, you know, who knows what would have happened. And I was able to open the door of American Ninja Warrior and have like an incredible life from it, you know, and still to this day enjoying it. I'm here in the gym, you know, it's super late. I'm still training. Like, had I not taken the chance and just said, you know what, like, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to see it through. I wouldn't have had so many opportunities that I've been given, you know, to this day, working with the American Lung Association. Maybe the reason that happened in the water walls was so that I can connect with the Lung Association, and I love working with these
That's a key
guys.
piece.
Amazing.
Right there. You just found it's the opportunity that comes through failure.
Exactly.
And that was beautiful. And every time something seems to go completely haywire, there's something beautiful on the other side of it.
On the other side of it, absolutely.
And real quick, what time zone are you in?
Eastern.
See, so this 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
8:40.
It's 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock.
What time is it? 9 o'clock. Yep.
It's 9 o'clock at night. Can you imagine? That's real dedication right there. Can you imagine?
Well, I got here, so I've been here. What time did I get here? Like, I got here at 3 p.m. So I've been here since 3 p.m.
Wow.
Yeah.
6 hours of training.
Yeah.
And you know, the thing that is really important about the conversation that we're having is that even outside of the course of athleticism in life, we have failures. And how many of you have been entrepreneurs? How many of you have had, you know, endeavors that you're taking on that didn't quite go? You maybe had a relationship that crashed and burned, you know? All of that stuff feels like a failure at the time. But there's some of the same tools that you're doing with your dedication, your perseverance, your willingness to look for what's next. That's what I'm loving hearing in everything you guys are saying. There's always something that's next that comes through on the back end of a failure. So that's right. Amazing. And it's always better. I don't know, in my life, it's always been better. So I'm curious if any of you, you know, I looked at Akbar's picture. He's playing a game against his brother. How cool is that? Like, you know, now I'm not going to jump out of a perfectly good airplane, but I think that there are some things that we all face in life that requires the heart of a ninja. You know, that place that you just know, I'm going to get back up and I'm going to do it again. Evan, you've had some epic fails. Yeah. Tell us about your fun fails.
Segue, Lindsay. Thank you. Yeah.
Hey, you're the one who said it, not me.
It's such a long list. No, it's interesting. That video that I sent to you today was one from A&W 7. So that was the last season I competed on American Ninja Warrior.
We have it ready. Do you want us to show it?
Oh, let's do it. Yeah.
Roll. Okay, roll tape. Tell us about what's going on here.
It's exactly what you were saying. What we're looking at is failure. And this
as I recall, it was a moist night, right? Evan, that was raining or something.
Yeah, I would love to say that it was the nunchuck's fault here. But there were too many athletes that made it through that obstacle that I don't think I can use that as an excuse. Ah, look at that. Crying to the heavens.
There's Casey.
And now here's the side-by-side, because I had fallen on the same obstacle in qualifying in the semifinals and the finals for where were San Antonio, I think we were, or Houston maybe. I don't recall.
You made it one extra nunchuck though.
One extra nunchuck. Oh man! And then to watch that back and to see the side-by-side. And basically, yes, I made it one nunchuck further. I'm sure there's an inspiring, keynote in there somewhere, but it sure didn't feel that way to only make it that much further and to watch in slow motion, see like my hand close before it actually hits the thing, as though I don't know how to grab onto something. I mean, I do. I know how to grab onto that. And it was super disappointing. And Akbar, you talked about mindset, and I think that was critical in season 7 in particular, because there was a shift for me in my priorities at the time. So I loved competing as an athlete on the show. Season 4 was my favorite. Season 5, though, is when I got to do Well-Trained Warrior, where I got to be the host and talk about what exercises you might do to complete certain obstacles. And that there was a shift in my mentality where I thought, oh, this feels more genuine to the trajectory that I want to have professionally and personally. So the time season 7 came around, I was just trying to stay current. I really was. I wanted to be on the radar. I loved being on television. I thought it was a blast, but I wanted to show people that I could still do it. And when you have a mentality other than conquering the course is going to beat you. I mean, it beats you a lot of times anyway. Yeah. But without the proper mindset going into season 7, you can see what happened. It was my worst one ever. Now, fortunately, I had the opportunity then to do some sideline reporting for a show after that. So maybe it wasn't.
Well, what I like about you, Evan, is you're always reinventing yourself. Yeah. You became successful as an American Gladiator, right? And there was a lot of failure up the ladder to get to there. And then you were able to try something new. And you knew that you weren't just going to catapult to the top of American Ninja Warrior. It doesn't work that way, but you still tried it anyway. And so what gives you that grit, that determination, that motivation, inspiration to keep going to do that, even though you know that there's failure on the horizon?
you know, it's something I've always just wanted to have a life that was outside of the ordinary. I hesitate to call it extraordinary because that feels like I'm like patting myself on the back, and it's not the case at all. Like I want my life to matter, and I want my life to matter in a way where other people can be somehow impacted by the choices and actions that I take along the way, and have a platform like American Gladiators or Ninja Warrior to share my story. The other contrast between myself and earlier seasons competing and season 7 was the story packages that they put together, in that, like, American Gladiators was my story was all about how I had lost my mom to brain cancer, and how I was doing this taking on this monumental task to take on the Gladiators in honor of my late mother, in order to give my family something to cheer about. And then by the time we get to season 7, I'm just talking about how I love being shirtless and like, oh yeah, just like, wow, put a smile on other people. I'm like, how did I go from like wanting to inspire people through this incredible hardship, the worst thing I've ever been through, to now I just want to take my shirt off on television? There's a disconnect. So you talk about reinventing yourself. Like there's a process to it. And I think
I remember Akbar telling you to take your shirt off a couple of times.
Sure, yeah. I'll be honest, it doesn't take much convincing.
You know, you're bringing up something, Evan, that our audience, actually, we have a question from the audience I'd love to bring in from Aria Bona. She says, unfortunately, my little ninjas shed a lot of tears. Do you have any advice for parents for our kids? Like, how can we be better cheerleaders for them? Because we all needed cheerleaders when we were little, right? And what would you guys give to the parents out there for how to help their little guys get over the tears?
I know Kevin Bulls is chomping at the bits to get in, but I have something to add after Kevin Bull.
Oh, sure. Awesome. Yeah. Well, I would say you, as a parent, you want to be supportive, first of all, and everything that your child does. Pretty much, you want to let them know that you're there for them. But in doing that, if they're struggling emotionally with, success and failure, you want to also guide them towards the idea of where is it that they want to go, right? So when something happens, it's in the past, and it's important to remember the lessons that you learned from that, but it's also important to be able to look at where you want to go from there. And sometimes you have to change your trajectory. Sometimes you just learn a lesson and you try again. But I think that's, for parents, really what I would say is just keep that mentality with your children of, okay, I understand that happened, but where would you like to go next? What would you like to have happen next? And that's resilience to me.
Yeah, and one other thing I'd add to that too is that support doesn't just mean praise and patting on the back. Support also means being able to tell your kids the truth. And having 4 kids, I truly believe this, that kids are more resilient than parents actually give them credit for, in that when they make a mistake, being able to tell them, hey, you can get better. Because sometimes we think support is giving them this false sense of greatness. Like, oh, you're really good at it. Oh, you're really good. Oh, you're great, you're great, you're great. And then the kid comes in and grows up with this self-entitlement, thinking that no one can correct them, that they're always good at everything. And I think that's when the pressure becomes super real for the kid, because you realize as you get older, you go, whoa, 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 I'm not great as everything. And you start shutting down. You start having that fixed mindset, meaning you don't accept challenges because you weren't mature enough, or you weren't brought along to be able to accept those. So I try to keep it real with my kids. I try to, give them the truth, but also to encourage them. And again, encouraging in 2 ways. One, telling them where they made a mistake and how they can get better. And then when they do those things right, also 2, praising them and having fun with them at the same time.
Awesome. I agree with that, Akbar. Having 2 kids myself, I've got an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old, going to be 11 on Saturday.
Hey,
so they are right there.
Happy birthday!
And Sophia and Sebastian are, just like any other child that goes through pain and agony when they fail, and it hurts. And I think it's important for us to let them feel that hurt, just like we do when we go through failure. You have to have the emotion and go through that emotion, and that's okay. But then, like you said, Akbar, it's important to have them recognize, so what did you learn from that? What did you see that you could do different next time you get a chance? And to your point, Kevin, it's just encouraging them to keep going and not give up, because the inclination is it's hard. I don't like it. It's too tough, and I don't like failing. I don't like this feeling. I don't want this feeling again. But on the other side of that is the feeling of when you do good and when you win and when you are successful, and kind of, making that more the cornerstone for them to aim for.
Yeah. And I think back to a little bit what Akbar said earlier of not escaping the fail, right? Because that is a feeling that you will feel again.
Yeah.
So the willingness to not try to escape from it is a big important part about being able to face it again the next time around.
That's so true. So we have another question here from one of our viewers, and Monica would like to know, is there a mantra or something that you guys say when you face Mount Midoriyama or any of the other really difficult obstacles on the course? Something that just comes to your mind.
There's something that comes to my mind, actually. So when I was in school, one of the subjects I loved was history. So I studied history quite often. And I fell in love with the ancient Roman times and the gladiators. I was like obsessed with gladiators. And one of the gladiatorial fights they did was a fight called Sine Missione, which meant no mercy. And so these gladiators back in the day went into the arena with the idea that this was it. Like this, they were either going to fight or they were going to die. And they had to have that mentality of, hey, I'm going to come back by all means necessary. I'm going to have no mercy, because that's what that means, no mercy. You can't go in with the idea of, maybe I'll go in, maybe I'll be okay. You have to, this is life or death. So I try to put myself in that mindset whenever I'm competing of, no mercy. When you go out on the course, you give it everything you got, or you go down trying. So right before I go, I always take a knee. I'll say a quick prayer, and then I'll say Sine Missione, and it's almost like a switch. I like tap into this competition gear that I'm not able to do on the side, because it's just that saying that reminds me of a mindset that these ancient gladiators used to have, and that's what helped them come back home.
Cool. That's awesome, Naj. Anybody else have something that they do for the Grant?
Oh, sorry, I was just thumbs upping that one. I think that's
I want to know what you say when you go up to the salmon ladder on stage 2 for the next time, and how you're going to beat that mother.
Well, here's how I kind of roll with failure, and I didn't really know this is the way I was until I had more people ask me about failure, and then I was like, oh, word. I'm so comfortable with failure that it doesn't register anymore. So and that's a tough thing to try to teach someone to be, because it's kind of like you see someone in gymnastics do like 20 flips and you're like, oh, how do I do that? Well, you really start back here. So coming from that angle, just realize I fail so often that I'm totally fine with it. I fail in so many ways. Like I'm constantly failing at something, and I'm okay with that. In times I probably shouldn't have been. Like, I mean, there's times where I was like, well, maybe should have not tried that in front of all those people or whatever. But it becomes where there's no fear in failure when you realize that there's so much to gain from a failure. A couple things I think about is like, if you give up, that's when you really fail. But if you just fail and then pick up, you've learned something, and it's not the same. And believe me, I do that every year with the salmon ladder, because I've failed so many times on it that I'm like, I've done a million salmon ladders. I feel like Evan talking about like he knows how to grab an obstacle. I've done so many of them. And then I remember, dissect it, think through, push into the failure and find out something. Okay, well, yes, I failed one year and it was, stage 2. All right, I wasn't really ready for it. Failed. Cool. Next failure was in city finals. Failed because I was just rushing. Well, remember, respect the course. Don't think you got everything and just do it and not think. Then I failed because it started to change. Instead of just going up, we started to go down. And I was like, okay, going down and then adjusting. And that was when that started to progress. And this last year, the extension ladder started happening. So it's now bigger gaps. And so I have to push into a failure and go, what happened? And I learned it actually isn't I just fell on a salmon ladder every year. It's actually different salmon ladders. There's something that changed. There's something I learned. I remember from the first time, respect the course and the obstacles. You can't just do everything, no problem. Focus up when you get there. Then, okay, learn the new techniques. Sometimes you go down, sometimes you go up. Learn how it feels when you get pumped. And for me, being a big guy, I always got to think I'm very powerful. I'm also very bouncy, right? I hit the same line, the whole thing gets to shaking, and like I'll bring a whole rig down and I'll bounce off because I'm throwing too much weight in it. I do a CrossFit workout. I'll do 100 pull-ups, kipping in no time. I do 1 too big a kip, boy. That thing gets to shaking like it's an earthquake. And I watch video. I sit and watch video after video of these lighter guys gently placing the salmon ladder rungs in.
Yeah,
and then you
like feathers. Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom. So the key is to take something away in a failure, and in hopes of the more you get comfortable with failure, it becomes a friend. It becomes a sign that you are trying. It becomes an indicator in your mind that like, oh, I'm going big enough. Because if you just succeed, you might not be going hard enough. You might not be dreaming big enough. You might be trying your best. You might not be even achieving what you could get to, because the greatest things I've ever done have failed to get there. I mean, it didn't just like, oh, I just got it and I'm there.
Yeah,
no, you said it.
I want to add to that too, Grant, is that everything you're saying that, but just because you get used to it and comfortable and you're familiar with it, there's not the absence of the legitimate pain that you feel. I mean, you know, when you fail, like you're still going to feel it. And sometimes that feeling makes you go, I don't want to feel this again. And so you hopefully will develop that resistance towards that pain, stopping you from moving forward.
Yeah. Having a different mental approach and attitude. Oskai, can you share the slides with our audience? I just want to kind of recap some of the stuff we've talked about. So one of the things that, Grant, you were alluding to, that doubt kills more dreams than failure ever will. Doubting yourself, doubting your ability to do something is a killer. Go ahead, Oskai. There should be one before that.
Coming up.
But like you were saying, Grant, if you can adopt an attitude that failure is okay, it's part of the process, then you're less likely to get wrapped up in all the emotions that are tied into it. And you're more likely to treat yourself with kindness, be kind to yourself, stop beating yourself up about it, and then learn from it. I love this quote from Johnny Cash. You build on failure. You use it as, the quote went away. I can't see it now.
Oh. Let me repeat.
Sorry. You build on failure. You use it as a stepping stone. Close the door on the past. You don't try to forget the mistakes, but you don't dwell on it. You don't let it have any of your energy or any of your time or your space. And I think that's really important, a really important way to deal with failure. You acknowledge it, you accept it, you move on and learn from it. So, but this is exactly what you guys are talking about. I wanted to bring into the kindness aspect, because I think a lot of us beat ourselves up. And I think a lot of people in our audience beat themselves up when they fail. And I know I've seen you guys do it yourselves, and I'm victim of it as well. And being kind to ourselves. Here's what I always say. If you saw a friend fail on the course, would you go and beat him up? No, you would go and console him and say, listen, you'll get him next time. It's okay. You did your best. So why would we treat ourselves less than we would treat a friend? So treating ourselves with kindness is really important and a really smart thing to do as we move forward. Treat yourself the same way you would treat someone else. And it's a great way to handle and deal with failure.
And Ken, I'd love to add to that. First off, one, with the quote. I love the quote because it reminds me of being in a vehicle. And there's a reason why the rear view mirror is so small and the windshield is so big, because everything in front of you is big and is open as the road in front of you. And you just take that small opportunity to kind of look at the rear view mirror. You don't dwell on it. You just kind of look back in the past and then go boom. But you talk about being kind to yourself. And for those out there listening, I think this may resonate. But for me, that first year, and Ken, you and I, because I interviewed you for the book, that first year, I had all of my insecurities were just flooding me. I mean, I was overwhelmed. I'm dumb, I can't read, all these doubts that went through my mind, and I was beating myself up. And I think what being kind looks like in that moment when I go back to 2013 would be, Akbar, gosh, you didn't do well out there. You can do better. All right, here's how you get better. There's a little time to recognize and sit in a little bit of that funk, but then boom, bounce right out of it. And I know I think that's why that whole first season just went to craps, because I stayed in this perpetual state of feeling sorry for myself. I can't get it. This is not for me. I wasn't really thinking about, okay, how do I move forward? It wasn't until I was given that opportunity, I was like, no, I ain't messing this up again. Like, what do I need to do? Anyway,
I will say this.
Process.
I will say this about you, Akbar. Even though you beat yourself up and you were tough on yourself, and I remember consoling you on a few occasions as well, I've never seen anybody work as hard as you at really getting better at it and recognizing where you needed to improve your skills and how you needed to improve. And I think that's a testament to your character, to your ethics, your personality, and the person that you are. You never gave up, and I think that's what success is all about, never giving up. And that's how you really defeat failure.
I appreciate that. One of my favorite sayings on the show, when I see these ninjas, especially early, when I would see them get up that warp wall, I used to say, and it's still every from time to time, I would say, look up, stand up, and don't ever give up.
Nice. That's beautiful.
Awesome.
Well said.
It's great for the warp wall too.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's great.
Can we getting bigger?
Can we want to introduce a new segment, a weekly challenge to our audience. It's going to be a weekly ninja challenge this week, and I'm going to have Kevin introduce it for us. Kevin, are you cool to introduce it?
Yeah, sure. So this week we are doing a cold shower challenge, which I did today, and it was cold, but it was actually very interesting. So there's a lot of interesting health benefits from exposing yourself to cold water. For most of us athletes, we are familiar with that through the ice bath. I'm sure Akbar has done a number of ice baths, and Najee in your careers. I know I used to do it daily with track and field, but for what we're doing this week is a cold shower challenge. So we want to see or hear about your experiences. You can take your cold shower, let us know the experience that you went through, post it in our group, and then every day we will be selecting the best one of the day, and you'll be receiving one of the awesome Ninja Warrior face masks, which is a pretty cool prize. I'm going to be getting mine soon, I hear, so I can't wait to wear it.
Years are on the way, exactly. and we're also going to, Lindsay, am I correct, we're also to give somebody a VIP experience as well?
Absolutely. So if you share your experiences with us, and you let us know what you experienced in your cold water shower challenge, we want you to also be with us as a VIP for next Monday's episode. So please join us in taking cold showers.
If you look at the screen,
you'll see at the bottom there is a little instructions you can follow to take your cold shower that has everything. I would recommend doing those.
So just go to the link you guys see on the page, and we'll send you this little cheat sheet which tells you the benefits of taking a cold shower and how to take a cold shower. And we also have a little video that we're going to play for you right now that I shot that gives you little tips too, because I got into cold shower through Ben Greenfield a couple of months back, and I fell in love with him. So can you roll that tape?
Yep.
And it also introduces the challenge.
Welcome to the Cold Water Challenge. I've been doing this for about 2 months now, so I'm pretty used to the cold water. But you can practice breathing. Deep breathing helps you get used to the cold water too. Not think about the cold water so much. You can actually feel the heat on your skin after a while too. Plus, I swim in the ocean every chance I get. But if you're just beginning, I would suggest starting with hot water first for 10 seconds, switching it to cold water for 20, and back to hot water for 10. Do that for 3 minutes. End on cold water though, because you'll feel invigorated when you're done. All right. Be well. And when you're done, you'll feel amazing. Good luck, everybody. Cold water's the way to go.
Only you, Kent.
Okay, first off,
Only Kent.
I wish there was a way. I wish there was a way to gauge the temperature on that, because you made that look so easy. I was sitting there already hyperventilating.
I agree.
I get my kids in here. I should have my kids come in here and show you. I take cold showers every day, and I tell you, after 2 months of doing this, you don't notice the cold. It's very different. Now I can go swimming in the ocean I walk right into the ocean. I don't go like, ah. That's probably the number one benefit that most people talk about from taking these cold showers is you have a better tolerance for cold water. There's Grant taking let's go full screen on Grant.
Polar bear plunge. Yeah.
Can we see Grant's full
Very
screen?
cold.
Yeah. Oh, here we go.
You can tell that Kent is a professional, and you'll be able to tell even more when you watch my video tomorrow. It doesn't look like that at all.
Grant, you look like Wim Hof in this video, Grant. That's awesome.
This is negative 22 degrees. This is in Unalakleet, Alaska, up where Nick Hampton, Expo Ninja lives. We had to cut through 3 feet of ice to get down here into this. And but
I'm not worthy.
Okay.
And again, I always come from this point. Sometimes I get way too ahead and I have to talk back. I'm able to do this stuff because, yes, I do the same thing. Breathing in a cold water shower. And if you got to tell yourself what you got to do to make it through, sometimes I'll say, if I slipped and fell into ice, would I be able to survive? That's what I told myself at first. And so, okay, when that water hits you and you go, you're working through that by getting in cold water and facing it, just like you face your fear or whatever, or your failure, and you just go, yep, I'm just going to sit in this. I'm going to breathe. You can control it. It's crazy. I mean, this is negative 22 degrees.
That's great.
Actually,
all right, so go ahead.
He's leading to something, actually. I really wanted you to share with our watchers this evening. Can you share the kind of breathing that you do before you get in, or when you were first learning how to cold water shower? Because that kind of breathing is very helpful to know how to do, even when you're trying to minimize something that's also a little bit hectic and scary. So I thought I would ask you to share it.
Most people's inclination is to take short breaths, and then you're basically not getting any blood into your body and your vessels, and you're making the cold worse by doing that. So you really want to practice belly breathing. So you want to breathe down in the lower diaphragm, which is below your belly button, and deep breaths into there, and then long exhalations. So you can actually pull your abdomen up into your lungs as you exhale. And you do a few of those before you start, and it'll set the tone. It'll reset your vagus nerve, and you'll just be much calmer when you first start the shower. So, and it won't shock you as much. If we have time, we'll do a little breathing exercise at the end of tonight. I'll give you an example of it.
The fact that a lot of people may not know, and we'll get into this stuff in later talks so that you guys can learn, is just the ability of the mind over the body is unreal. I mean, again, this here is that place of realizing and telling myself, and the same thing I do when I free dive and I go really deep and I hold my breath, just holding my breath and straight swimming next to scuba divers. It's only possible because I can tell myself in my brain to go, heart beat slower,
Right.
to get my oxygen out. I need it.
Yeah.
Time, go slow. Same idea. You get in there and you go, breathe. Remember, you need oxygen. Take it in. Breathe it through, and so mind over body is a whole another thing that will, I'm sure, especially with Kent, all his knowledge.
Sure. And physiologically? Thank you.
Whatever that
I
word
can
is.
talk. Yeah, physiologically. You put your body in a hypoxic state when you go into cold water like Grant just did right there. You basically, it's with the Wim Hof breathing technique where it's, and you do that for like a minute. And then you get so much nitric oxide built up in you that you actually can sustain depths. You can hold your breath longer. You can sustain cold water. And this is a practice that many people do on a regular basis.
Right there? Was that the breathing model right there?
That's the breathing model for like Wim Hof thing. And I do it in the pool with my kids. I was doing it the other day and I was holding my breath for 3 minutes. Just by doing that for a minute. And you could get up to four minutes very easily. Almost anybody could do this. I mean, in 5 minutes, I could teach anybody how to do this breathing, where you could start with holding your breath for 30 seconds, and you could be up to 2.5 minutes. Grant's probably very well aware of this, yeah.
I was the exact same way. I could hold my breath for about a minute or whatever. I did a little bit of breathing, and it wasn't a full class or anything. I just looked up a little bit online, and I went to 3 minutes and 30 seconds within 2 times of trying to just hold my breath and swim underwater. So
Yeah, it's very cool.
It's really cool. And I just think that picture is really amazing, Grant, just so you know. That's very impressive. I did my first cold water challenge last night. Jumped from the hot tub to the outdoor shower, back to the hot tub to the outdoor shower, and I went, these people are crazy. But you know what? I have to tell you, it feels really good. And one of the sidebar benefits is immune system support. So, you know, as your body is rushing that blood throughout areas that it's not used to, you actually are building your immune system. And who can compete with the pictures that Grant's like throwing up right now? What are you doing?
We're going to have to do a Zoom background challenge at one point, aren't we?
Zoom background challenge.
Are you sitting on a polar bear?
Yeah.
It's an igloo.
Legit though, I am. I'm sitting on a big bear. That's a fun, right? This is, again, at Nick's house up in Unalakleet, and we built that igloo. Yeah.
That's
amazing.
Unbelievable. I love it.
That is sick.
Oh my gosh. Well, my friends, can you believe how fast an hour goes? I want to talk to you guys all night about especially these ice challenges here.
Hey.
Yeah.
Before we go,
go.
Yeah, before we go, I just, I'm going to get Kevin and Akbar and Evan their Ninja Warrior masks. I have mine here, right here. And, well, it's upside down. They're great because, they're awesome. They have a little pocket inside where you could put like a filter in there. So I really think they're incredibly useful. And I think they're, just wonderful. So we're going to show the people at home how they can get their slide if they want one. There's Grant sporting his. And so we send them out to all the ninjas who appear on the show as our thank you to them and a little gift. And I'm sure we'll all be wearing them a lot in the upcoming months. So they're made out of really good materials. And Lisa Holmes from Who Gifts International is our dear friend and sponsor of these for us. So we thank her very much.
Thank you, Lisa and Lori.
Lisa.
Yay, we love you.
I just add too about the mask. I'm not a big mask dude and all the things. And I thought, you know what? I'm going out. People are wearing them here in Texas. I throw one on and I wear it. And it's a fun conversation starter too. Of course, people are like, oh, but we can't really see it's me, And then I start that up. But like people may watch the show and see you wearing it and go, I watch that and It just allows us to still be social and break down this, like, we can't talk to each other, we gotta stay quarantined. It brings us back to normal, and it's a fun way of doing it by wearing a mask. Maybe a television show, even through just the image on your face, brings some fun, fans to interact with each other.
Mm-hmm.
That's
My
awesome.
wife got one that had lips on the front of it, which I thought was very cute.
Kent, before we go to our what's coming for our next webisode, I do want to honor at least one more Facebook question here.
Please.
It's a really good one. And I thought it would be fun to hear from, I'm going to pick on Kevin, I think, first. And then I'll go to Najee next. Who inspires you most to get back up and try again after you fail?
Ooh, well, I think the person who has inspired me most over the years is definitely my dad. I think family is very important for this sort of thing. And, he was the one, I think, that at a very young age, actually, he was just calling me right there. At a very young age, he really instilled that idea of, okay, this maybe didn't go so well. You can do better than this. Here's how you do it. You need to take the next steps. He was my coach on a lot of early sports teams. He would do like baseball. And that's not the sport I stuck with, but the lessons were important. The most important one was, I remember a long conversation with my dad one day after a baseball game about not taking a called third strike. And I think that one is a great metaphor for just about everything else you could do.
That's actually a really good metaphor.
Yeah.
Thank you. Najee, you next, and then Evan, you're next. I'm making you guys think ahead, see?
So one of my biggest heroes is The Rock. I love Dwayne Johnson. I've been watching him since I was like 5 years old. I think he's so cool. But the reason he inspires me the most is because after learning and reading, you know, his book and kind of just learning a lot about him, watching every single interview he's ever done, you realize that that guy has failed a lot. And he talks about, you know, having $7 in his pocket. He's been evicted. He's gone to jail. He's had so many points of failure in his life, and yet he's one of the most successful people in the world right now. And I think that like speaks volumes to what failure can do for you if you just allow yourself to go through it and embrace it and learn from it, you know, what you can achieve in life. And I think he's like a great example of that. So I love, whenever I think about failure, whenever I think about going down and not doing the things that I want to do, I think about The Rock and how he had $7 in his pocket when, you know, he went to the NFL, or how he was cut from the NFL, how he was cut from, you know, his college team. The fact that he has record, or, you know, he's been evicted from his apartments. I think about when he went to WWE, he didn't make a huge impact, and then he became a huge star by sticking with it and changing his, like we've been saying, his trajectory. And then how he went to Hollywood, and he wasn't a great actor, and he made some pretty awful films starting out, but now he's like one of the highest grossing actors in Hollywood today. So it's like the guy is constantly failing and then becoming a success from his failure. And I think that's super, 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 super cool.
That's awesome, Najee. Thank you. Evan, how about for you?
Yes. I'm gonna have to go with my parents, and I know that Kevin Bull used his dad already, but it's when you see an example of resilience and tenacity, which is what we were talking about, I can't go any further than my dad. You know, and I say my parents plural because I'll start with my mom. She went through 10 years on and off of radiation and chemotherapy and surgery, and she battled cancer like a champion with 3 kids and a husband, and we never saw her complain once. Like, we were the ones that were beat up and down about it. She never was. So I have to give a shout out to my mom. But then my dad too, then now having lost his spouse and having 3 kids to care for, to step up and do what he did with the attitude that he had and the resilience to encourage us and to support us in what we were doing and want what was best for us. And again, not being authentically who he was and equipping us as adults to continue on and do what we needed to do to honor not only Mom's legacy, but create one for ourselves. So I would have to say my parents.
That's awesome. I'm going to Grant next. And then after Grant, I'm going to pick on Kent. Aha.
Don't pick on me. Everyone uses all your answers. So, but I'm going to push on and maybe give a little just encouragement, because mine would be my parents as well. My dad created an environment that allowed for failure. And that meant I played a lot of sports, and I was not good at a lot of sports. And he was never like in the car ride home, like, I can't believe that happened. And like, I mean, I blew some major games in baseball. It's not very good baseball. And I hit some game winners. And there was something to the way that he created an environment of like praising when it was deserved for sure, but not giving a false sense of praise either when I didn't do that well. Or if I totally failed, it wasn't like, all right, you know, it was this comfortable space to fail that really gave me a great place to understand where I am now, where I'm just completely okay with it. I realize it's a part of the process. And then another thing is reframing what we think failure is, that my mom did. So one of the gnarliest things that people will, it may be a really hard topic for people to get, but when my mom passed away, she struggled with drugs and alcohol for a long time. And she was an amazing mother for not until I was a freshman in high school did she start using and start really things not going well. Before that, she was just an amazing mom. Now in that later bit of life, she started to struggle with drugs and alcohol. I watched it. Now what people say is someone who goes back to rehab or goes back to drugs or using or whatever, they're like, oh, they're just still in it. They're never going to get out. They're never going to. And it's the wrong mindset about what failure is because to them, if they go back and use or if they do, then they failed and that makes them a failure and that's it. And they write people off. But it's a huge thing to continue to fight, to even go, okay, I use, and, you know, I don't want to be that way. And and my mom writing letters and kind things and saying stuff in her good times, it was indication of her succeeding. And the world doesn't let you succeed. Like they just say, if you use again, you fail. And the worst thing people do is they go, if you pass away from drugs and alcohol, if you overdose, you completely failed and that's it. And that is wrong. It's not what happens. It's a real battle. And you may not
live forever because no one's going to, but it's the win you take every day to where you go the good days, the times that you got together, you got yourself clean and sober. Those are all wins. It's reframing the idea of failure. So 2 things from my parents. 1, my dad creating that environment. So shout out to all the parents who have kids and you're hoping to do that. Remember, facilitate a good place to fail, that it's okay. And then also help to restructure what failure is, because societally we look at it wrong. We make it so that's it, final thing, when, you know, it can look a little different to screw up, but still carry on.
Lovely.
Very
That's
cool.
perfect, Grant. Absolutely the way I've tried to be as a mom. Thank you. Kent,
What about you? I want to hear about Akbar, actually.
you want to hear Akbar first? Okay, I was going to leave him for last. Haha.
Well, just quickly, I think for me it's 2. 1 is my father, who came to this country from Nigeria and was able to raise 7 kids, come to this country not speaking the native language and having to learn English and find his way through. There's a lot of grit that my father passed along to me in that process. And the other was, and it still is, actually, I don't know if you can see behind it, but I've got a bunch of Muhammad Ali books here in my office. I'm a huge Muhammad Ali fan. And even though in his professional career, success started real fast for him. But what I love about it, most people overlook about Muhammad Ali, he's a 3-time champion. That means he had to lose his belt those times. And to me, there was a lot of humility. There was a lot of work that he had to do. And he had to reinvent himself several times before he was able to get his belt, because they happened in different phases in his life. Obviously, after the Vietnam War, and he got his belt stripped, and then he was a little older. And so I look at that, and that I drew inspiration. And I go back to something I said earlier, the growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. The growth mindset is also inspired by people's success, whereas a fixed mindset, they resent that. Oh, you think you're better because you're this, that, and the other. They resent other people's success. They find excuses to be able to kind of isolate those people who have success. And so you want to stay in that growth mindset where you can cheer people. I love cheering and seeing the successes of the ninjas, because I'm inspired by other people's success. And for me, there's something in every single ninja that I've had the opportunity to call. There's something, a little something in all of them that I can find in myself. And so when I'm cheering them on, I'm also cheering myself as well.
Nice. That's wonderful. All right, Kent, who in your life helps you get over the obstacles?
Still on mute.
Oh, you're on mute for some reason.
That wasn't by accident, obviously.
Whoopsie.
My story's not the same as everybody else's. I really didn't have the kind of childhood that fostered and that I recall, and my parents may remember differently, although my father's passed away 20 years ago. It wasn't the happiest of homes, so I didn't really have the kind of, although I did good and I really wanted to be good and I strove to, but I think it was out of the necessity to just get away from the home. So for me, it was more other people that came into my life. My uncle stepped up big in my life, who's my namesake. His name is Kent also. And he was a big part of my life and taught me a lot. And I learned a lot from him. One thing my dad taught, I remember very vividly, is he said, I don't care whatever you do in life, just be the best, whatever it is. So if you're a ditch digger, be the best ditch digger. So I don't care. So that stuck with me. So whatever I did, whether I was flipping burgers at McDonald's or bagging groceries at Ralph's, or or driving a car, making deliveries, I was the best at it. I wanted to be the best at it. So that carried through, that style, that attitude carried through. And that helped me through failures too. And there was many times, like I said before, I'd cry and, in my bed to sleep at night. And I'm sure like Akbar cried the first season, when he, and it just means we care. And that's just emotion means you care. So, but I've had so many people, they're like angels that have come into my life, through my life, that have stepped into my life and been so inspirational and helpful to me. And I think that's what we all look for, And so even though mine is not the typical story, I've had plenty of help. And nobody gets to success without help along the way. And I have tons of people that have helped me along the way. So that's my story.
I love your story. It's a good one. And just because I want to finish off, I want to say for myself, You know, it used to be my parents that were the ones who were my inspiration to get over the tough things in life. But you know who it's become now? It's my kids.
Wow.
It's amazing how much they inspire me and how they face incredible challenges with the world today post COVID-19, and you know, getting their athletic careers ripped out from underneath them, or their, you know, academic careers just totally knocked sideways. It's kind of cool. I mean, I really appreciate what this next generation is going through right now, and it inspires me. I think the world will get created because we all overcome obstacles, and I'm grateful to all of you for the ones you've shared with us tonight. So thank you. Thank you so much. And
you guys have been amazing.
Yeah, more than amazing. There's not even a word for you. We need to invent a word like fabulous, amazing, something or other. I don't even know what.
I've created a couple of words myself in my time. So
have you?
You have.
Could you share those, Akbar, in a future webisode? We'd like to have the Akbar definitions.
There is a whole dictionary in Akbarisms. Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Got a whole Twitter account.
Well, you know, I want to share with us, the next webisode is coming up next Monday. And of course, all of you are invited. We'd love to have you join us and just say hello and pop in and share your ideas. We are going to have Daniel Gill, and Alex Weber, and Justin Conway, possibly even 2 more who will be a little bit of a surprise. We're talking next week about trusting your gut and following your intuition, and probably going to talk a little bit about some more biohacking that are game changers, things that we can do to
we'll dive into some more detail on that.
Yeah, that sounds really fun.
Get into some specifics about that.
Hey, Lindsay and Ken, I just wanted to say before you guys end, this has been such an amazing webisode, Zoom. This is probably the best I've been a part of. Like, this has been, like, I feel like, I don't even feel like it's been an hour yet, but it is so impactful. I mean that. Like, this is so powerful movie because it has a lot of substance to it, too.
Thank you, Akbar. That means a lot to us. Thank you.
And, you know, we couldn't have done it without the team behind us, with the John, Zach, and Oskai, who really helped us put this on. So big shout out to them, too. Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
And to all the other ninjas who aren't here tonight, we love you guys too, because all of you have been very instrumental in creating all of this over the last couple months. So thank you so much. So what we're going to do now in style is we have to do the Ninja Talks dance party. So with that,
don't forget the cold water challenge.
Don't forget your showers, and everybody
I want to see those videos.
Showers prep, guys.
And ninjas, stay here with us because we're gonna have the VIP Q&A following this dance party. So hit it.
Yeah, and if you want to talk to the ninjas in the future, join the VIP.
Grant's elbows go. They're great.